Gentlemen, listen closely. In the quiet moments of connection, behind the flirtatious smiles, the clever words, and the confidence women wear like armor, there are hidden vulnerabilities. Not weaknesses in the sense of something to exploit, but hidden truths, emotional access points that most men will never see. But if you do, you gain insight, influence, and a level of connection that goes beyond the surface. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding, so you stop losing to confusion, heartbreak, or emotional games you never signed up to play. You want the truth? Here it is. Most women will never tell you what actually pulls them closer, what scares them, or what they crave at their core. But once you understand these 10 hidden weaknesses, you'll stop reacting like the average guy, and start leading like a man she can't ignore. Let's break it down. There's a dangerous myth that many men buy into, that women are primarily attracted to looks, money, or flashy status symbols. They think the car they drive, the watch on their wrist, or the muscles in the mirror will do all the talking. And while those things might spark curiosity or short-term attention, they don't create deep connection or lasting attraction. What truly pulls a woman in, and keeps her there, is emotional security. The feeling that she's not just seen, but safe. Safe to be herself. Safe to feel. Safe to let her guard down without fearing rejection, judgment, or abandonment. Flashy attraction is loud. It comes in hot and burns out fast. It's the guy who dazzles her at first, but quickly becomes exhausting. He's inconsistent, unpredictable, always trying to impress but never really present. He knows how to get attention, but not how to hold space. And that's what separates the boy from the man. A woman may admire the show, but she'll fall in love with the man who doesn't need to perform. She may flirt with excitement, but she'll stay for emotional safety. The man who provides emotional security isn't desperate for validation. He's grounded. He doesn't need to be the center of attention, because he's centered in himself. He listens when she speaks, not just to reply, but to understand. He's not reactive. He doesn't try to win every argument or make her feel wrong. Instead, he creates a space where she can unfold emotionally, knowing she won't be punished for having feelings. That kind of presence is rare. And because it's rare, it's irresistible. A woman might be physically drawn to a man's looks, but it's his emotional depth that makes her vulnerable in his presence. Emotional security is what allows her to reveal her truth, not just her curated persona. When she's stressed, she doesn't have to pretend to be okay. When she's anxious, she doesn't have to mask it with sarcasm. When she's excited, she can fully express joy without being mocked. That safety opens her up in ways surface-level attraction never can. Men who rely solely on being flashy often lose women to men who seem simpler on the outside but are giants emotionally. Why? Because real connection isn't built on how a man looks in a suit, it's built on how he handles her storms. A calm man. A present man. A man who doesn't waver when she's spinning. That's the man who makes her feel something deeper than butterflies. He makes her feel held, without ever needing to touch her. In a world full of noise, the man who provides silence, safety, and strength becomes a refuge. Not because he's flashy, but because he's rare. Because while every other man is chasing her body with charm and confidence, he's quietly anchoring himself in presence and pulling her soul toward him. There's something undeniably powerful about a man who doesn't flinch under pressure. A man who doesn't explode when provoked, who doesn't chase when ignored, and who doesn't crumble when emotions run high. That kind of emotional control isn't weakness. It's dominance in its purest form. And for a woman, it's magnetic. It signals strength, leadership, and maturity. In a world where most people are ruled by their impulses, the man who remains calm and centered stands out like a lighthouse in a storm. Women notice. And more than that, they feel drawn to it in ways they can't always explain. Most men don't realize that women will test them emotionally, not to hurt them, but to feel the edges of their emotional stability. It's often subconscious. A sarcastic comment here, a moment of withdrawal there, a burst of emotion out of nowhere. She's not trying to create chaos, she's trying to find out if you can handle hers. Can you stand your ground when she's not at her best? Can you remain calm when she's in a whirlwind? If the answer is yes, she feels something primal, safety, respect, even admiration. If the answer is no, and you lash out, beg, sulk, or lose your cool, she may not say it, but something inside her retreats. A woman doesn't want a man who reacts like she does. She wants a man who responds with strength, clarity, and presence. A man who doesn't get sucked into emotional drama, but knows how to hold space for it. She wants to feel her emotions without being judged, and she wants to know that you won't mirror her instability. That's not coldness, it's emotional leadership. And it's incredibly attractive. When a man masters emotional control, he's not detached, he's composed. He knows who he is. He doesn't take things personally. He doesn't need to prove himself or dominate anyone. He's aware of his emotions, but they don't own him. This kind of man can walk away from disrespect, speak truth without yelling, and maintain his peace in situations where most men would lose theirs. That presence is rare, and because it's rare, it commands respect. For a woman, emotional control is more than a preference, it's a need. Because when a man loses control, it makes her feel unsafe. Not physically, but emotionally. If she's the one riding emotional highs and lows, and he's doing the same, there's no balance. No foundation. But if she storms and he stays grounded, if she cries and he remains soft but firm, if she tries to push and he doesn't budge, something shifts. She begins to trust him on a deeper level. She begins to lean in, not because he forces her to, but because his stability invites her to. Emotional control is quiet power. It doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't chase validation. It simply exists. And the more a man cultivates it, the more women feel pulled into his frame, without him ever needing to raise his voice or lower his standards. Most people walk through life feeling invisible, unseen, unheard, and unnoticed. This is especially true for women, even those who appear confident or surrounded by attention. Compliments come and go, likes on a photo mean little, and conversations often skim the surface. What women are truly starving for isn't generic praise or flattery. It's recognition. The kind that cuts through the noise and says, I see you. Not just your appearance, not just your accomplishments, but you, the woman behind the mask, behind the performance. And when a man offers that kind of deep recognition, it becomes rare, and addictively powerful. Recognition is not the same as attention. Any man can give attention. It takes no effort to look at a woman and say she's beautiful or sexy. It's common. It's expected. But to say, I noticed how you held back in that moment, even though you clearly had something to say, or the way you carry yourself tells me you've had to be strong when no one else was, that's different. That penetrates deeper than looks. That tells her you're paying attention to what others miss. And that kind of attention is intoxicating, because it meets a need most people don't even know they have. When a man sees a woman not just as someone to desire, but as someone to understand, she feels validated in a way that goes far beyond attraction. It makes her feel chosen. And not in a desperate, needy way, but in the rarest kind of way. Because we all want to be chosen for who we are, not just how we appear. When a woman feels that you've taken the time to observe her soul, not just her smile, she begins to open. Her guard drops. Her energy softens. Because in your presence, she doesn't have to pretend anymore. This is why so many women stay in relationships that others don't understand. It's not about money, looks, or status, it's about how she feels when she's with him. And often, that feeling is rooted in being seen in ways she never experienced before. Recognition is emotional oxygen. And once she breathes it in, she can't go back to shallow air. It becomes addictive, not because it's manipulative, but because it's fulfilling. Men who understand this don't waste words on cheap praise. They listen. They observe. They speak to what's real, and women feel the difference immediately. It's not game. It's not strategy. It's presence. And it's so rare that when a woman encounters it, she remembers it, often for the rest of her life. She may not even understand why she's drawn to you. She'll just know that in a world of people who skim the surface, you looked beneath it. Recognition is rare because it requires effort, empathy, and attention. But when you give it sincerely, consistently, and without an agenda, it builds something that no amount of charm or physical appeal ever could, a connection that's emotional, undeniable, and unforgettable. Desire is not born from certainty, it's born from curiosity. From the unknown. From the thrill of not having everything figured out. Women, especially those who are used to being chased, complimented, and pursued without effort, don't crave more attention, they crave intrigue. When a man is a complete open book, when everything about him is easily accessible and predictable, interest fades. There's nothing to explore. But when a man carries a quiet confidence, a sense of control, and doesn't reveal everything about himself at once, something switches on in a woman's mind. She begins to wonder, to lean in, to chase the answers he doesn't freely give. And that's where desire begins. Mystery isn't about playing games. It's not about withholding affection or being emotionally unavailable. It's about depth. It's about not needing to explain every move, not rushing to prove yourself, and not oversharing just to earn approval. A mysterious man doesn't tell his whole story in one sitting, he lets it unfold, piece by piece, with intention. Each interaction reveals just enough to keep her engaged, while leaving space for her imagination to fill in the blanks. That space is powerful, because the human mind naturally desires to complete what is incomplete. And when it comes to attraction, mystery is the blank canvas that her desire paints on. The man who possesses mystery doesn't need to speak loudly or constantly prove his worth. His silence isn't emptiness, it's full of potential. His glances, his restraint, his control, they all say more than words ever could. He knows that the less he reveals, the more she'll want to know. And when he does share something real, something deep, it hits harder. It feels earned. It feels intimate. It feels like a gift, not a performance. Women are naturally intuitive and emotionally intelligent. They pick up on energy quickly. So when a man's mystery is real, not an act, but the result of self-mastery and a rich inner world, it creates a tension that keeps her thinking about him long after he's left the room. She begins to wonder what drives him, what he values, what keeps him so grounded and detached from the need to impress. And that wondering, that hunger to know, is the seed of powerful attraction. A mysterious man also creates contrast. In a world full of oversharing and overexposure, he becomes different. He's not posting his every thought, not constantly seeking approval, not trying to be liked by everyone. That subtle restraint becomes an invitation: if you want to know me, earn it. And for a woman who's used to being pursued effortlessly, this shift in energy is magnetic. It flips the script. Desire grows in the shadows. In the pauses between words. In the questions that don't have easy answers. A man who knows how to use mystery without manipulation taps into something timeless and primal. He lets her discover him slowly, and in doing so, he awakens a chase within her that no amount of loud charm or desperate validation ever could. There's a difference between being wanted and being chosen. Women are often wanted, physically admired, flirted with, desired for their appearance or charm. But being intentionally chosen is something else entirely. It's when a man sees past her surface, past the wall she's built, past the image she projects, and still decides, with clarity and presence, you are the one I want to build with. That kind of choice breaks through barriers she didn't even know were there. It softens her defenses. It touches the parts of her that don't respond to compliments or chemistry alone. Because when a man chooses a woman with depth and decisiveness, he doesn't just capture her attention, he earns her trust. Many women live in a constant state of guardedness. Not because they're cold or unfeeling, but because they've had to protect themselves from being used, misled, or misunderstood. They've been admired for the wrong reasons. They've had men chase them just to conquer them. So even when they meet someone promising, there's hesitation. There's doubt. But when a man shows up not to consume, not to impress, but to truly choose, she feels it. It's not just in what he says. It's in how he looks at her, how he listens, how he doesn't try to rush the connection but stays steady, consistent, and intentional. Being intentionally chosen means a man isn't just attracted, he's aligned. He doesn't just want her when she's easy to love. He chooses her even when she's raw, even when she shows her doubts and insecurities. He recognizes her beauty, but more importantly, he recognizes her story. Her soul. Her struggles. And he doesn't flinch. He doesn't try to fix her or own her, he stands beside her and chooses to understand. That kind of energy is rare. And when a woman feels it, her walls begin to crack, not from pressure, but from presence. A woman's deepest craving isn't constant attention, it's significance. To feel seen, valued, and accepted not in her best moments, but in her realest ones. When a man is intentional with his energy and his words, when he pursues her not out of desperation but direction, it communicates something no smooth line ever could. You are worth choosing on purpose, not by accident. That breaks her walls because it speaks to her worth in a way that even she may struggle to believe. She begins to trust that she's not being pursued for shallow reasons. She begins to feel safe showing her full self, knowing this man didn't choose the mask, he chose the truth. The result is a connection rooted in emotional intimacy, not just physical chemistry. The man who chooses with clarity and consistency awakens something powerful in a woman. He doesn't demand her vulnerability, he earns it. And as her walls fall, not out of fear but out of trust, the connection becomes unshakable. Because nothing melts resistance faster than knowing someone isn't here to take, but to truly choose and stay. Leadership isn't just about telling people what to do, it's about knowing where you're going and inspiring others to follow without needing to be forced. For women, true masculine leadership isn't rooted in control or domination, it's rooted in clarity, confidence, and grounded direction. When a man walks into a room and carries himself with certainty, when he makes decisions with conviction, when he moves with purpose and integrity, women notice. It's not about arrogance or being a tyrant. It's about embodying the energy of someone who knows who he is and where he's going. That energy doesn't just attract respect, it triggers deep, primal attraction. A woman feels turned on by leadership not because she wants to be controlled, but because it allows her to relax into her natural feminine flow. Feminine energy is responsive, creative, emotional. Masculine leadership gives it a container, a direction, without smothering it. When a man can say, "I've got this," and mean it, not with bravado but with calm strength, it creates a safe emotional space. In that space, a woman feels like she can breathe. She doesn't have to carry everything. She doesn't have to guess or lead all the time. She can let go, and that letting go is deeply intimate. Most men don't realize that indecision kills attraction. Constantly asking her to make the plans, to initiate the conversations, to lead the connection, drains her desire. She may comply, but inside, her attraction starts to fade. On the other hand, when a man takes initiative, plans the date, knows what he wants, leads the conversation with direction, it sparks something in her. It reminds her of strength. It reminds her of certainty. And in a world where so many men second-guess themselves, that kind of leadership is rare and irresistible. But true leadership isn't selfish. It listens. It adapts. It leads with empathy, not ego. A man who leads well understands the balance. He's not a dictator, but a guide. He pays attention to her needs and considers her input, but he doesn't lose himself in trying to please her. He stays rooted in his mission, and invites her to walk beside him, not behind, not above, but with him. That's the kind of leadership that ignites trust and devotion. Even in conflict, leadership turns her on. Not because she wants to be dominated in an argument, but because she wants to feel like you can stay calm, stay fair, and still lead the situation to resolution without turning to anger or emotional chaos. That strength of mind is what makes her feel safe. And safety is the foundation of true intimacy. When a man leads with integrity, a woman feels it. She doesn't just see it, she feels it in her body, her emotions, her energy. She starts to lean in. She starts to soften. She becomes more open, more trusting, more alive. Because the man who leads not by force but by presence awakens something ancient in her, the desire to surrender, not from weakness, but from knowing she's in strong, capable hands. So now you know, it's not about tricks, and it's never about manipulation. These hidden female weaknesses aren't really weaknesses at all. They're emotional truths. They're unspoken desires. They're the soft spots behind the strong front. And if you're the man who sees them, understands them, and respects them, you become unforgettable. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop doubting and start leading. Because a woman doesn't give her heart to the loudest man in the room. She gives it to the one who knows how to see her, steady her, lead her, and choose her with intention. If you can embody presence, self-control, purpose, and depth, you won't just get her attention, you'll earn her loyalty. And in a world full of men trying to impress, the man who understands what truly touches a woman's soul, that man will always stand out. Be that man. Start today.